Good evening. First of all, thank you everyone for coming to the Lodi High School for this presentation on CBD and legal THC that is currently being sold in our communities. Also, thank you to everybody who is tuning into this presentation online. I myself double booked myself and could not be there in person, so I had to do this presentation virtually. This is pre-recorded for you, and I hope you find the information in this presentation beneficial to you and hope that it helps have a better understanding of CBD products and the legal THC products that are being sold at the various locations throughout our communities. I'd just like to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Pete Warning, and I'm a Detective Sergeant with the City of Portage Police Department. I've been with Portage since 2015. I've served as the school resource officer. I've worked with the Columbia County Drug Unit, and I've received various trainings and certifications throughout my almost 10 years with the PD. One of the certifications that I hold is that of being a drug recognition expert. What that means is when officers arrest people for being under the influence of something other than alcohol while driving their vehicle, they will call someone like me, a drug recognition expert, in to conduct further evaluations of that person. A DRE will come in and perform a 12-step process, and through that process we can determine what category of drugs that the person is under the influence of. There are 7 drug categories that we identify through this process. Those drug categories are depressants, stimulants, hallucinogens, inhalants, narcotic analgesics, dissociative anesthetics, and cannabis. Now with that, I will also throw out this disclaimer. Even though I'm a drug recognition expert, that does not mean that I'm an expert in CBD, cannabis, or the cannabis industry. Now I've received a lot of training through DRE for CBD products, for cannabis products, and the cannabis industry due to all the products that we're seeing out there, but that does not qualify me by any means to be an expert. There are plenty of magazines and online resources which people have dedicated their lives to learning about the cannabis industry, to lobbying various government agencies for the legalization of these products, that those are the people that would be considered experts. With that being said, I do know enough about these products to be able to give a presentation which I feel is only going to help you, the community, make better decisions and understand what these products actually are. By that same token, I am also not a medical expert, and I am not offering any medical advice. Now, CBD specifically does have some medicinal value to it. There's also research that marijuana and its products also have medical value. I am not one to say whether or not they do or they don't. I'm not trying to with this presentation. That is something you should talk to your doctor about. And that is something that they need to be the ones that can direct you on any CBD that you're looking at for medicinal purposes. Again, with that, there are safe medical uses for CBD. There's been research on that, and you can talk to your medical provider or your doctor about any health-related issues that may be alleviated by CBD. But again, you need to speak to a medical professional about what those experiences you are having and the options that you're possibly looking into as far as CBD products to get a direction from them. The other thing I will tell you is if you go to a reputable CBD store, they are able to tell you a lot more information about the various CBD products that they sell and what they're really produced for and what they help alleviate. Those people are more of an expert than I am when it comes to these CBD products and these various THC products that are being sold that may have some sort of medicinal value for you. Now, the products that I'll be focusing on and talking about here are not necessarily ones that are sold at the reputable stores. You can get some of these products at the more reputable stores, but you typically see the products we're going to talk about at your gas stations, at your smoke shops that aren't really geared towards holistic or medicinal value. Now, before I get too far into all of these different types of products, we kind of have to have an understanding of the difference between marijuana, CBD, and novel cannabinoids. So I'm going to take a moment to kind of explain the differences between actual marijuana, CBD, and these novel cannabinoids that you're seeing for sale now in our communities. So what is marijuana? It seems like a silly question to be asking. However, in order to understand CBD and these novel cannabinoids, you have to have an understanding about where they come from. Marijuana comes from the cannabis plant, which has two main subspecies to it. Those include the indica plant and the sativa plant. And hemp products are derived from the sativa L plant. When we talk about cannabis in this presentation, we're referring to the dried leaves, flowers, stems, and seeds of the plant that are used to extract either the hemp or the indica or sativa blends, which create delta-9 THC and its intoxicating effects. Now, the cannabis plant, as I will mention throughout this presentation, has over 100 different cannabinoids that are out there. These cannabinoids are currently being researched. There's not a lot of information about all the cannabinoids that are out there, as this industry is fairly new. However, the most popular cannabinoid is delta-9 THC, which causes the intoxicating effects and impairment. It will produce mind-altering effects or a high, which is what everybody seems to be going for when they're using marijuana for that purpose. Delta-8 THC also occurs naturally in these plants, but in very, very small quantities. Delta-8 has been shown to not produce any mind-altering effects, but it's there and can be extracted. So that brings us to CBD. CBD gained popularity after the 2018 Farm Bill, which authorized the legal production of hemp to be done by farmers across America, and CBD has now become quite popular, especially in states where marijuana is not legal for recreational or medicinal use. Currently, there is only one form of a CBD-based treatment that is approved by the FDA. That is called Epidiolex. It is used to treat severe seizure disorders and actually holds promise to treat other issues to include anxiety, sleep, pain, and addiction. Now, CBD is being researched continually for various different uses. There are clinical trials that are currently underway to determine how effective CBD is to treat PTSD, cancer, schizophrenia, cognitive impairment, ADHD, Parkinson's, and many other conditions. Those clinical trials are going on right now, and at this time, it's really not known for certain how good CBD is at treating some of these ailments. However, I would suspect to guess that in the near future, we will hear more reports about CBD and its effective uses for medical purposes. Now, CBD, known by its technical term of cannabidiol, comes from the hemp cannabis plant. It is the second most well-known cannabinoid from the cannabis plants. And when we talk about this, and we talk about it coming from the hemp plant, you need to understand that hemp has a definition of having less than 0.3% delta-9 THC concentration by its dry weight. The dry weight is what's important to understand here. The Farm Bill legalized the production of hemp plants, and they go through a testing to make sure that they are less than the 0.3% delta-9 THC concentration. And CBD has been studied since 1940, second to delta-9 THC. It is found in the resinous portions of the flower rather than the stalk, seeds, or leaves. And in short-term dosing has been shown to be safe and well tolerated with no mood altering or negative impacts on the brain, and does not create a natural high. As I stated earlier, this was legalized under the 2018 Farm Bill and is not subject to oversight. However, there is the U.S. Hemp Authority, which helps, I guess, in a sense, provide direction as to these CBD products. If you go to a CBD shop, that's a legitimate shop, they will have things up from the U.S. Hemp Authority in which they have seals or a label from the U.S. Hemp Authority that states the concentration of the products to prove that it has less than 0.3% delta-9 THC. When you go to these shops have to pay the U.S. Hemp Authority a fee in order to test their products to make sure that they are safe and that they contain exactly what their label says it is. If you're not going to one of these legitimate shops, like one I can think of in Portage is the American Shaman, that's a legitimate shop in the sense that they go through the U.S. Hemp Authority, they have their products tested, they know what's inside of those products, and it's been approved by the U.S. Hemp Authority to be safe for consumer use. Now, I'm not saying that anyone should go and use those, and I'm not promoting that store by any means. I'm just using that as an example to say that there are shops out there that are trying to do things the right way because they see the value and the medicinal value that CBD has, versus gas stations that are selling whatever product they can to make a buck. If you go into American Shaman and you talk with them, they will try to determine how they can help you. After all, they are selling products. And they will be the first ones to tell you that they have people that come in there for CBD-related products to try to treat medical ailments. And they also have people that come in there for THC-type products to mimic or create the same effects of marijuana and the delta-9 and getting a high. Now, the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, otherwise known as the Farm Bill, was passed on December 20th of 2018. And what that did was it legalized the production of industrial hemp. Now, again, hemp means that there are cannabis plants containing no more than 0.3% THC by dry weight. It removed hemp from the DEA schedule of controlled substances and in turn created this new booming industry. That industry was valued at $291 million as of 2023. Now, when this bill was passed, and it was really passed to kind of help farmers with hemp production that were trying to do that, it also opened up the door for a whole new industry that I'm not sure they were anticipating. And in fact, the 2018 Farm Bill is up for renewal. And there are rumors about that Farm Bill changing the language to possibly restrict some of the products that are currently being sold. If these changes come through, legitimate shops that are out there as well as gas stations may not be able to continue to sell these products, but it's still yet to be seen. That bill was supposed to be renewed last year. However, it's been pushed back. It was supposed to be renewed as of September 30th of this year, but I have not seen anything that states the current status of that bill. However, that is what really kind of controls and contributed to all the products we're now seeing out on the market. Now, this brings me to novel cannabinoids. Novel cannabinoids is another booming industry that's kind of taken off from the legalization of the hemp bill. Essentially, what researchers are doing is taking the hemp products and seeing how they can chemically or synthetically alter them to create new products for various reasons. Now, you've seen some of these out there already in our community. If you go to a gas station or a smoke shop, they're all over the place. It's a wide variety of various products that you can purchase. Those include Delta-8, THCA, HHC, HHCR, Delta-10, THCO, and THCP. Now I'm going to go in and talk about these products here in a minute, but they can come in various forms. You can see these in vape devices. They can be sold as a flower, very reminiscent to typical marijuana. They can be sold as gummies. They can be sold in energy drinks, and they can be sold in a crystalline type substance. But the Farm Bill and the legalization of hemp production really kind of opened up the doorway to allow these products to begin being made. Now, again, back to cannabinoids. The cannabis plants, which include marijuana and hemp, contain more than 100 chemical substances called cannabinoids. Some of these cannabinoids are psychoactive, which means that they can change how your brain functions, and some of them are not. The primary cannabinoids are tetrahydrocannabinol and CBD. The FDA has approved medical uses for some cannabinoids, including treatments of seizures and nausea and vomiting from chemotherapy. Now, again, I stress novel cannabinoids are different than marijuana or CBD. These products are made through a biosynthesis or a synthetic process, which involves a series of enzymatic steps that convert precursor chemicals into CBGA, which is then converted into THC, CBC, or CBD through specific enzymes and processes. The synthetic process involves extracting the CBD from the hemp plant, adding acids, heat, and solvents to produce other cannabinoids, such as delta 8 THC, delta 10 THCO, and possibly even more. They have researchers on both sides of the aisle, some that are trying to research products for medicinal value, and some that are trying to research products to create similar highs to marijuana and still be sold legally as a form of making money. So what exactly is delta 8? Delta 8 THC, or delta 8 tetrahydrocannabinol, is a naturally occurring chemical compounding that is found in traces in hemp and cannabis plants. Delta 8 is one of over 100 cannabinoids, and it gets its name because it has a double bond on the 8th carbon chain, whereas delta 9 has a double carbon bond on the 9th carbon chain. Hence why they name these products certain ways. Delta 10, conversely, has a double carbon bond on the 10th carbon chain. When we're talking delta 8, it produces a fuzzy, euphoric high that's said to be similar to that from marijuana, but much milder. Some people also use it to ease symptoms of conditions of stress, depression, or chronic pain, but there's little research to confirm that it's effective for any of those purposes. Nearly all the delta 8 that you can buy is made in labs with cannabidiol, so CBD, from hemp plants along with several chemicals. It's much more potent than the delta 8 THC that's actually found in nature. So you can start to see that as we talk about these products that they're going through this chemical synthetic process. And it's being changed now from the 0.3% THC concentration by dry weight, and they're changing it chemically to create them to be more potent. By that same token, there's no restrictions on what is being used to create these. So the acids that they're using and the various enzymes that they're using may not be safe for human consumption, but they're creating a more potent form of delta 8 THC. So it's really kind of a buyer beware situation when it comes to delta 8 or any of the products that we're going to talk about. Now, when we talk about delta 10 is an isomer of delta 8 and delta 9. Isomers are molecules that have the same chemical formula but have a different arrangement of atoms. And as I explained before, delta 10 has a double carbon bond at the 10th position versus 9 at the 9th and 8th at the 8th. There are also other variations of the THC molecules, as well as delta 3 and delta 7, but they're not well understood, as they're not found to be very abundant in the cannabis plant naturally, and they require a lot more chemical manipulation to produce significant quantities. Delta 10 is also included in this. Delta 10 in itself appears in less than 1% of cannabis plants and is often synthesized from CBD to yield a high concentration. Again, so it goes through this chemical or synthetic process in order to create it. It's not natural by any means. The delta 10 that you're buying in a vape, a gummy, or whatever else is there at the gas station or wherever you're buying these products from. It is very much unknown how they got that product to where it is. But it's being sold as a way to provide people with a means to experience marijuana for relaxation, recreation, and self-discovery without having legal consequences. The manufacturers are looking for isomers like delta 8 and delta 10 made from Farm Bill compliant hemp plants in order to produce different products and make more money. Another product that you're going to see commonly sold is called THCA. Now, this one is going to be popular with those people looking for the intoxicating effects of illegal marijuana in the state of Wisconsin, but legal marijuana in states that it's legalized in. Its chemical name is tetrahydrocannabinolic acid, and it's a type of chemical found in the cannabis plant that has the potential for medicinal use depending on the way that it is ingested into the body. Now, when you ingest it through eating it or just the flower itself without baking it or adding any heat source, it may have some sort of medicinal purpose. Again, that'd be something I'd recommend you speak to a doctor about that medicinal purpose and what that would mean for you. However, I can tell you that THCA, when you add a heat source to it, actually transforms THCA into delta-9 THC and will have intoxicating effects. People are selling this product in vapes, which automatically adds heat. They're selling it as a diamond form. When it's in the diamond form, it's actually being added to marijuana already to make it more potent and the high from marijuana to last longer. And it is the most common form of THCA that's used for what's called dabbing. Dabbing is just another way to smoke marijuana. It's a newer way to smoke marijuana because you're getting diamonds and wax forms that you can't just pack into a bowl. So they now have dab smoking devices, which in turn create a more potent high. The next product that I'm going to talk about that you'll see is called THCO. Most commonly, it refers to THCO acetate, which is a completely synthetic sourced cannabinoid. The chemical compound of this is, like I said, completely synthetic. Producers create the THCO by taking CBD and converting it to delta-8 or delta-9, then combining it with another chemical to get the final result being THCO. There is very limited peer-reviewed research on the potency of THCO as it compares to the naturally occurring compounds, but users report anecdotally that it gives a more extreme high than regular delta-9 THC. High Times magazine, which if you're not familiar with High Times magazine, it has followed the cannabis industry for years, is a very large proponent of legalized marijuana, and pretty much anything related to marijuana use is going to be talked about in that magazine. They call THCO a psychedelic cannabinoid and states that it's 3 times as intoxicating as delta-9 THC. People report feeling very relaxed and tired. However, nausea and vomiting are also very common with use of THCO. So again, this is an item that's being sold legally at gas stations, smoke shops, and CBD shops because it's been legalized through the Farm Hemp Bill, but yet has very intoxicating effects. HHC is another product that you'll see available for sale. It is chemically named hexahydrocannabinol and is sometimes referred to as HXC. Chemically, it is very similar to delta-9 THC, but it is semi-synthetically produced CBD. It goes through a special chemical process called hydrogenation, which gives its CBD additional hydrogen atoms, which turns it into HHC, being what it's called. Some people refer to HHC as a, quote, light form of cannabis in that it won't get you as high as regular THC, but the high that you do receive is very similar to if you were smoking natural marijuana that does have a decent potency of delta-9 THC. HHCR is another product that we're seeing out there. It is fairly new to the industry, and it's now recently coming out, so this might be a product that you're starting to see or hear about people using. HHCR is very similar to HHC, but it differs as HHCR is the active molecular version of hexahydrocannabinol. Again, HHC practically mimics delta-9 THC, and when it's actually produced, you actually end up with a combination of 2 HHC molecules which are formed together. Those 2 molecules making up this product have a direct impact on what the user will experience. These 2 molecules are 9R-HHC, and that molecule binds to the same cannabinoid receptors as delta-9 THC, which then in turn offers the same effects associated with THC. However, it is much more potent than traditional delta-9 THC. The other molecule that you end up with is 9S-HHC, which is in the distillate form. This is an inactive cannabinoid and does not bind to the CB1 receptors like delta 9, so therefore it will not have much of an effect or produce any sort of intoxicating effects like the 9R-HHC or delta 9-THC. To make this matter even more difficult is when this is processed, there is no way to determine how exactly these two molecules will be formed and at what levels. So you might get a company that produces this that has a 2-to-1 ratio of 9R-HHC to 9S-HHC, or a 1-to-1 ratio of 9R-HHC to 9S-HHC. And there's no way for anyone to predict this outcome, and there's no way that they're going to be able to tell anyone on these packages what kind of ratio there is. This is definitely more intoxicating than regular HHC, and again has psychoactive properties that are diluted sometimes by the presence of the 9S-HHC, but if you get one that is a 2-to-1 ratio of the 9R, it's definitely going to be more intoxicating than a different manufacturer who had a 1-to-1 ratio of these two molecules instead. A lot of people report that HHCR is like a more potent form of delta 9 THC, but again, there's no way to determine exactly how much more potent it is because they have no way to tell exactly what the ratio of these two molecules are. The last product that I'm going to talk about is THCP. This is relatively new to the market and is just now starting to show up in gas stations and smoke shops and CBD shops. Its chemical name is delta 9 tetrahydrocannabiphorol and is a natural occurring phytocannabinoid found in both hemp and marijuana plants. The presence in either of those two plants is very, very minimal, but commercial development stems from the isomerization through converting hemp-derived CBD. That's how it's produced. What's different about THCP's molecular structure when compared to delta 9 is that it has a longer alkyl side chain that extends from the bottom of the largest part of the molecule. Now, the reason why this is important is because delta 9 THC only has 5 carbon atoms on that longer side. THCP has 7 carbon atoms. Now, we talk about the chemical makeup of these products, and it really comes down to, like I said earlier in this presentation, as to how these are being formulated. As I stated, there are chemists out there trying to make CBD products that are for medicinal purposes, and there are chemists out there that are trying to make products that are just as effective, if not more effective, than delta 9 THC at creating the potency related to the high that you receive. Now, with THCP, as I stated, the ability of this particular item to bind with the CB1 receptors is reported to be 33 times better than delta 9's ability to. And I talked about whether or not that's good or bad or means that it's better. Now, as I stated earlier, through the DRE program, we have trainings that talks about all these various products that are coming out as we get the information. The other spot for us to get information is right online. And with these being available for sale anywhere and legalized through the Farm Bill, you can pretty much Google search any of these products and find out a lot of information about them right online. There's an abundant amount of resources, whether they be through various medical websites, science reviews, doctor reviews, but also the marketers and the people producing these products to try to sell them. One of those producers is 86brand.com. And I found it interesting the way that they describe THCP for the people they're trying to sell it to. On their website, they say, quote, due to the stronger affinity, THCP is known to feel like a combination of traditional delta 9 THC and mild psychedelics. Now, we don't mean the walls will melt around you sort of psychedelic trips here. THCP is what's known in the alternative cannabinoids community to deliver more of a microdose level of psychoactivity. There might be some slight color disruptions, but nothing you wouldn't be able to handle. Now again, this is what they're putting online to sell these products. People will search and probably have searched online for these novel cannabinoids that they're seeing available for sale, and they come across something like this. Now, the way that this is described just basically says it's going to be very similar to smoking marijuana, but you might have a bonus of having a psychedelic trip on top of that. I know through DRE that marijuana does not cause psychedelic trips, and that if I came in contact with somebody who was under the influence during a DRE eval, and I could tell that they were under the influence of a cannabis, being Delta-9, and then they were also experiencing hallucinogens or synesthesia, which are common symptoms that I would see in relation to hallucinogen-type drugs, I know those are two separate drug categories. But the way they describe it here, it's almost like it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's all part of just what it's designed to do. The website goes on to then talk about the potency level of THCP versus Delta-9. And one of the questions they pose is, well, it's 33 times stronger, so does that mean that it is, in fact, more potent? And their response is, nope, and here's why. They go on to then say that in the world of hemp-derived CBD wellness products, the term bioavailability is thrown around more often than not. Bioavailability is the rate at which the body absorbs a consumed substance. Should your body reach and exceed that rate, the substance is filtered out and effectively wasted. Now, this is a true statement in that your body can only handle so much of whatever it is you consume, whether that be protein that you take in, or vitamins that you take in, or anything that's healthy for you. Your body can only handle so much of a certain level, and it will, in fact, filter that out and waste it out of your body, the stuff that it cannot use. However, when you talk about drugs and you talk about things that have an impairment level or psychoactivity on your brain, that changes the game. And I haven't seen any drug through the DRE program that is taken that has psychoactive capabilities or impairment availabilities that is just merely filtered out and wasted without some sort of negative side effect. This is no different. If you take too much marijuana or too much THCP, there are going to be negative side effects. You can overdose on marijuana. The results of it overdosing on legal marijuana in a different state, illegal marijuana in Wisconsin, but the Delta-9 THC pretty much results in extreme paranoia and some pretty violent vomiting. That's the typical signs of a marijuana overdose. Doesn't sound too terrible because we're so used to that overdose term, meaning that it's going to result in a cause of death. That's not necessarily the case with marijuana. You can overdose on it and have extreme paranoia and also have some vomiting effects. And the way that this is worded on their website by saying that, oh, your body's reached its maximum level, it's just going to filter it out and effectively waste it, makes it seem like there's no ill side effects. Now, I can't say for certain that THCP is going to cause you ill side effects, but I can say from my training and experience and what I know from the DRE program that I would highly suspect somebody who consumes too much THCP to have some pretty impactful side effects. What those are yet to be seen. Unfortunately, we in law enforcement and the communities that we work in, we're going to see those negative effects sooner than it's going to be reported on. It also goes on to say that since THCP binds to the CB receptors 33 times better than traditional THC, your body would simply hit the maximum bioavailability of the consumption method, then render everything else as waste. Again, this is not to say that THCP wouldn't deliver the same psychoactive effects as traditional THC, or even Delta-8 THC for that matter. A higher affinity to CB1 receptors, regardless of bioavailability, is what makes THCP lead to a completely different psychoactive experience. So this website, 86brand.com, is effectively marketing this product to be sold, and they're making it seem like there's really not a big risk to that. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we go forward regarding these types of marketing, and if there are going to be issues down the road for them when they start realizing that what they're putting out there is not necessarily truthful or accurate to those that they're trying to sell their products to. So now that we've talked about the various products that are out there, it's also important to understand and know how these products are actually made. Depending on where you look and the research that you do, we'll find various different ways that manufacturers are converting CBD into these different products. And each one involves essentially the same kind of process. It just changes what they're using to make that process happen, maybe the duration for how long they run their processes, and some different variables to make these different products. But the same baseline kind of plays into these things. Specifically, I'll talk about the conversion of CBD to Delta 8. Now, for this conversion, it involves refluxing CBD in an organic solvent such as toluene or heptane with p-toluene sulfonic acid or another acid that serves as a catalyst. They make the reaction happen, and they typically run that reaction for 60 to 90 minutes. And they're basically closing the molecule ring of CBD. According to people online, when they discuss this, they'll tell you, quote, these are pretty aggressive synthetic conditions that use strong acids. They might be using strong bases to neutralize. They can use metal catalysts. There's different people doing it different ways. In a pharmaceutical environment for CBD, PhD chemists ensure that products don't include harmful unconsumed reactants, but nobody is really measuring the pH of Delta 8 products or testing for strong acids and residual metals that are left behind. Now, this was according to one of the websites that was talking about this process. I can tell you that there is the Hemp Authority, the United States Hemp Authority, that I spoke of earlier in this presentation, that these stores can pay, I think it's like $20,000 per year, and the U.S. Hemp Agency will come in and test all of their products to make sure that they're safe. Now, again, this goes back to me talking about what I would consider, I guess, a legitimate CBD shop, one that's open to really kind of give people a holistic option or a natural option, quote unquote, for some of the pains that they're having. Those legitimate shops are going through the U.S. Hemp Authority and they're having their products tested, which says that these things, these metal catalysts or these very strong bases to neutralize things or the acids that they're using are safe for consumers to use. And they will put an actual stamp of approval from the U.S. Hemp Authority that says these items have been tested, these products have been tested, they're okay for human consumption, they're safe as they can be, right? But that's not happening at your gas station. That's not happening at the vape shop or the smoke shop that really doesn't care too much about the CBD aspect for medicinal purposes. They're there to sell you products that are very similar to THC. So I would say that a lot of people are buying CBD products with the intent to get the intoxicating effects. Now, I'm not saying everybody, but if you go talk to these shops and you talk to a legitimate CBD shop, they will tell you that the majority of their sales are for products which are very similar or are very close to the high that is received from Delta 9 THC. You get it from a legitimate shop, you know it's safe. But if you buy it from the gas station, you have no idea because it hasn't been tested. Those gas stations, those smoke shops are not paying for products that have that U.S. Hemp Authority approval, and they're not paying the premium that those products with that approval will actually have. Their goal is to make money, and they're going to sell products that make money. The way that the U.S. Hemp Authority make sure that these items are safe is through chromatography. And chromatography reports are available if you go to a legitimate store, like American Shaman CBD and Portage has chromatography reports for the items that they sell, which if you understand how to read those, can tell you exactly what's in it and how it's safe or not safe. And it's very possible for pretty much anyone that's selling these products to do that. But most people aren't actually taking the time to distill it or use chromatography to figure out if they are in fact safe. And it's very possible for, these big manufacturers that are making all these other novel cannabinoids to actually go through that process to remove delta 8 THC from the unwanted reaction leftovers or byproducts from the acids that they're using to convert this from CBD to delta 8. But that again requires an additional step, which in turn requires additional money, and they're just not taking that step to do that. And that's directly from an associate at the University of California in San Diego's Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research. So there are people out there that are trying to do good things with the CBD market, but it's being tainted right now by a lot of marketers that are just trying to sell products that are purely to try to replicate or simulate the delta 9 THC high and make it more potent. Now, as I talked about earlier, and I pointed out with the 86brand.com, is there are marketers out there that are promoting these products and trying to downplay the possibility of any side effects and actually what they mean or what could possibly happen to you. But by that same token, on the other hand, there are many people out there that are for more regulation of the Delta 8 and the CBD industry because they're trying to do the right thing with it. Greg Girdman, the acting CEO and president of Nashville Commodities Exchange, which is devoted to hemp and its derivative products, is concerned about the lack of oversight for Delta 8 THC products that is currently out there right now. According to him, he says it needs to be really cleaned up. Now, this is a guy that's devoting himself to hemp and its derivative products. So he's a proponent of these products being out there, but he also agrees that it needs to be regulated further. He goes on to say that he just knows there's a great deal of experimentation by producers and display claims of Delta 8 THC being less potent than Delta 9 THC. It can still make you really high. It's just a matter of that dosage. Another issue is how many of these products have way more Delta 9 in them than what they say. Now, he brings up dosage in this, which is another part of everything. And I talked about it when Colorado legalized marijuana back when they did, in the sense that people were overdosing on marijuana or THC products because they were consuming too much of it. And that really does have an effect. Dosage needs to come into play when you're taking these products or using these products. And if you don't have any idea of the dosage and you take too much of it, you're going to have some pretty gnarly side effects. Girdman goes on to say that the beauty of cannabis is that you don't get fatal overdoses, but it can make you feel absolutely horrible. So there's research out there that shows that if you get too much of these products, you're going to go through some pretty adverse side effects. Very different from what 86brand.com told us earlier, in the sense that, hey, if you have too much, your body just gets rid of it. Not really a big deal. This is a guy, again, who's devoted to the hemp industry and its products that they're coming out with. And he's saying, hey, there's got to be some caution here. I think he realizes that bad apples are going to ruin it for the whole industry when he's trying to use these products for the better of the community rather than just getting people high. Now, to take this even further, as I stated before, depending on the manufacturer of these products, depends on what chemicals they're using to make their final results. The producers are essentially taking these products and combining various novel cannabinoids without doing any research, testing, or knowledge of how these cannabinoids affect the human body and its systems. I'm sure there's clinical trials out there right now, and I'm sure somebody out there is doing research on these various products, but they're all coming out so new and so fast that it's difficult to keep up and actually see what's happening. And there's not a lot of research to determine how these products either have what we call in the DRE field an overlapping, an antagonistic, an additive, or a null effect on each other. And what that basically means is, are these novel cannabinoids that they're mixing together to create these products, are they enhancing the effects? Are they negating the effects? Do they not have an effect at all? Or are you going to see some overlapping things like they talked about earlier, where you have a Delta 9 THC high, but you also have psychoactive or psychedelic experiences with it. That would be an overlapping type effect. Now, due to the legalization of hemp and all of these products, there is no regulation on them. Now, I did mention the U.S. Hemp Authority will come out and they will test things and they will tell you what's in there and they will tell you if it's safe. But if the product that you're purchasing does not have that U.S. Hemp Authority sign on it, then it hasn't been tested by them and they're not claiming it to be safe. Now, I'm not trying to hang my hat just on the U.S. Hemp Authority. However, they seem to be the only ones that are offering this service out there to prove that these products are actually safe. Some manufacturers will use what's called dichloromethane and trichloroacetic acid, which are used in the process to make some of these cannabinoids. Now, dichloromethane, also known as methylene chloride, is commonly used as a paint stripper. Trichloroacetic acid is a corrosive chemical used to make medicine and herbicides. Now, these are the things that they're using to make some of these products. And it just goes to show that there's other byproducts that are in these things that people are now inhaling and ingesting that we don't know any information on what the adverse side effects those are when they're consumed into your body, let alone into your lungs and into your airway. Now, if you recall, when I talked about the 2018 Farm Bill, that is really what started the hemp industry and the production of hemp, which in turn created a lot of these products. The manufacturers basically take that product now, and now they hire chemists to research and figure out how to make products the way that they want them. That Farm Bill is currently up for review, and depending on what that Farm Bill turns out to be, there could be some regulation that actually comes down, or it might stay the same. I'm not sure who's lobbying up for Congress to make those changes, or if any changes will be made at all. But it'll be interesting to see what happens to that Farm Bill as it renews coming up here. But if you look online, there are people that are sounding the alarm bell on this and saying, if regulators simply go out and try to ban Delta-8 THC, meaning just Delta-8, they just want to ban Delta-8, like they did with Delta-9, then manufacturers are just going to make a Delta-10 or some other type of isomer or alkyl chain analogs like we talked about, whether that be the THCP, HHC, HHCR. And some of those analogs, they're saying, could be toxic or widely psychoactive, as we've already seen. And you might have known of people in your communities that have tried these things that have had some pretty bad side effects from it. So people are saying that the regulatory language needs to be broad, or you're going to be stuck in this multi-year cycle, very much like what we saw with K2 and Spice a while back, if anybody remembers that, to where the legislator and the people that make the laws technically have to change the law every year to adjust to the chemical compounds that are being made. So there really has to be some changes to kind of shore things up from people that are in the industry that are calling for it. And they'll tell you that without better regulation, consumers will continue to be duped by manufacturers that aren't doing things for the betterment of public and are really causing harm. One person says out there that they need to get the truth out to the public, that these products are synthetic compounds made from an ingredient extracted from hemp, and compared it to like making methamphetamine from cold medicine. And just because the starting materials are legal does not make the resulting product legal or safe. That's from Christopher Hudula, the president and chief scientific officer of Proverity Laboratories. He's a chemist, and he believes that Delta-8 THC is a synthetic cannabinoid that is not legal, that should not be legal. His belief is that people that are buying these products are essentially being used as guinea pigs, and there's no testing or anything else that's being done, or no warning labels, and people are just using them, and everybody's just going to say, okay, go ahead and use them and see what happens, which creates a pretty dangerous area for everybody to be in. Now, when it comes to health concerns, products from hemp do not have an age restriction for purpose. The Farm Bill does not have an age restriction that says you have to be a certain age to buy these products. That's not in the Farm Bill. Now, municipalities and cities have enacted city ordinances that state, you have to be a certain age to buy these products. But even ours in the city of Portage talks about Delta 8, and it talks about electronic smoking devices. Well, while that's all good and great and it restricts that, per the Farm Bill, legally any age person could go buy gummies. They could go buy edibles. They could go buy a software drink that has any of these products inside of it, and it's legally sold. And that's anywhere where they list it as legal THC. So you really have to work with your cities and municipalities to make sure that your ordinances are covering these things. On these products, there's not a warning label indicating the intoxicating effects. No product testing is being done unless it's requested or paid for. And there's no package or label requirements being regulated by everywhere else. Now, they will put labels on products, and they will put packaging on there that talks about doses and things like that, but it's not required by any laws. Now, this is just some information for everyone to know what the difference is between a cannabis product, meaning a marijuana product that's sold in a state where it's legal for purchase for marijuana, versus actual hemp products. Now, when you look at this, hemp products has less than 0.3% THC. The authority that regulates that is the Department of Agriculture. That age has no restriction on age. It has no limit on concentration and serving size. And there's minimum standards for what they have to put on a package and label. And all that it's subject to is sales tax. So wherever hemp products are sold, that's it. Now you go to a state that sells legal marijuana, they have to be sold in licensed stores, and the concentration of these products are greater than 0.3% THC. The state authority that oversees these are liquor and cannabis boards, and then the Department of Health for Food and Retail Food Code. The age restriction, you have to be 21 years of older or older. It has a concentration and serving size that says that edibles are limited to 10 milligrams per serving or 100 milligrams per container. And the package and label has required rules, and it has to be approved before it can be sold. And then on top of that, these are subject to a 37% excise tax plus sales tax on top of that. So really the products that are being sold in these gas stations are really kind of undermining the marijuana industry big time. Now, when we talk about the legality of CBD and these novel cannabinoids, I've talked about it a little bit with the Farm Bill, in that they legalized it so long as it was below 0.3% by dry weight concentration. However, these novel cannabinoids that are derived from hemp plants do in fact have 0.3% THC by dry weight. But when they go through these chemical processes, they're being changed. But it goes back to where it came from. That's how these products are legal through the Farm Bill. When they go through this process, it's very possible that they're creating more of a high effect than Delta 9 THC. And like I said, these are not being regulated. There's not testing being done on these products to see what their level is after the fact, because the Farm Bill just states that you can make these products so long as they're made from 0.3% or less THC by dry weight from the start. Now, the DEA has listed both Delta 9 and Delta 8 as controlled substances when they're synthesized from legal hemp. So they state that 2 cannabinoids do not occur naturally in the cannabis plant and can only be obtained synthetically, and therefore do not fall underneath the definition of hemp. Now, while this is all good and great from the DEA, that's not part of the legislation and the law. So there really has to be a change there, and which is why I also say it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Farm Bill when that goes through the process of its final approval. Now, this is a typical label that you'll see on a THC product. This is a THCA product, and you can see that the potency analysis is along the side. If you look, it has THCA of 19.931%, THCV, CBD, CBDA, CBDGA. Those are all very minimal. CBGA is 0.456. The THC concentration is less than, it's 0.32%, so that's legal. And it's got some CBG in there as well. It also talks about terpenes. Terpenes are added to these various products. They give flavor and the smell to these products. That's why they have the marijuana odor to them. Has a QR code that you can typically take a picture of and find out more information. It says the package date, expiration date, and it does tell you on here individual doses are 10 doses per gram, but it's not telling you how many grams are equivalent to that. So it's got information on there. How useful it is also really doesn't matter too much. But now, if you recall what I talked about with THCA, if this is a product that's in a vape and now you're adding heat to that, well, now that's going to turn into THC. Now, in theory, they say that a product that is labeled that has THCA at 19.931%, as this label does, that once it's added to heat, it now becomes a THC concentration of almost 20%. That's a huge issue for something that's being sold legally that now has a THC concentration of 20%. So again, what do we do? You really have to have your ordinances in place to make sure that these products are not being sold to those that are under 21. You really have to make sure that you're talking with people in your community and working with these shops that are selling them to make sure that they're not selling them to underage children. That can cause negative effects. And you really kind of want to strive that you're directing people to go to the right places in order to buy these products. Is that going to make a difference? I don't know. I don't think we'll know until we start seeing more of what actually happens from all of this, but it's something that we need to consider. But cities are tied if you don't have ordinances in place to take care of that in the first place. So I would strongly urge a review of city ordinances to see what restrictions you have on these shops, to at least ensure that they're not selling it to anyone under 21, and to see if you can put anything into place that actually puts up warning labels. That I'm not sure of. That's out of my pay grade. I work in law enforcement. Like I said, I have some background on this background knowledge about these things, which is why I agreed to do this presentation. The ordinance and things of that nature and what you do as a community, that's more based up to your common councils, your mayors, and the people of your community. Again, the Farm Bill is in the process of being updated. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that and if there's any changes and any further restrictions that come through on the hemp products that are being sold. As of right now, I don't have an update on it. I tried looking for it this morning as I was getting ready to do this presentation for you to see if there was any news as far as what's changing, and all that's out there is speculation right now. It has not been updated, but it goes either way. There's speculation that they're going to restrict it further, and in essence, if they do, a lot of these shops and these products will not be allowed to be legally sold anymore. And there's been rumors that it's going to stay the same, and we're just going to have to see what comes of it. At the end of the day, people are really turning to CBD and novel cannabinoids for various reasons. But two of the more prevalent reasons are, one, for CBD and these hemp products and these novel cannabinoids to have some sort of medicinal impact on their lives. They have ailments or stress, anxiety, PTSD, pain management, that they're trying to use CBD and hemp products to kind of mitigate those issues and kind of help them with those issues. Maybe they don't want to take traditional medicine that's out there, or they don't like opiates for pain medication, or there's a fear surrounding opiates of becoming addicted, so they want something a little bit more natural, or I should say less addictive, so they go through a CBD avenue. That's one group of people that's looking for these products, and that's kind of how it's sold by a lot of these websites, is for their medicinal value. However, on the other hand, you do have this group of people that are looking at these products as a way of becoming intoxicated and creating a similar high to that of Delta 9 THC in traditional marijuana. The problem is those people are using these products, and I shouldn't say just those people because they're not the only ones using these products, but when you're looking at these products for an intoxicating effect, is you don't understand the dosage and you don't understand the potency of these drugs. And depending on how they're chemically established, adding heat or other elements during the use of these products can actually intensify the THC concentration and make them even more potent. There's really not a ton of research on each one of these products since they are so new, but I do hope that this presentation shed a little bit of light on the different products that are out there, kind of gave you an idea of what those products are, what research is showing about those products, and the fact that they're not necessarily safe by any means. Yes, they are in fact legal through the Farm Bill, but just because they're legal doesn't mean that they're safe. So if you have any questions going forward, please let Brian or Chief Smith from Lodi know so they can get in touch with me and let me know your question so I can reach out to you or answer any questions or have a conversation that you may want to have. I appreciate your guys' time tonight. I again apologize for not being able to be there in person, but I do hope that you found this presentation to have some good information for you and to be a worthy of spending your time here at Lodi or watching this video on YouTube. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone gets home safe. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and have a good night.